Dear Tattooed Biker, I'm a resident of Altoona, Pennsylvania, and I'd like to report a strange encounter I experienced with a friend in the early morning hours of Sunday, March 17th, 2013. This incident is now over 12 years old, and I chose not to report it sooner, out of reluctance to expose myself, my family, or my friends to public scrutiny. However, with the recent increase in similar sightings around Pennsylvania, I've decided to share my experience in hopes it may contribute to ongoing research. I asked to remain anonymous, as well as anyone mentioned in this report. Reporting a sighting of Bigfoot or even a UFO is one thing, but what we saw that night was something entirely different. On the night in question, my friend and I were returning from a job I had done in Williamsburg, Pennsylvania. He was driving at the time, and to the best of my recollection, the incident occurred between 1:30 and 2 o'clock a.m. We were heading southwest on Route 22 through an area locally known as Geezytown, a rural suburb of Hollidaysburg, Pennsylvania. Just as we rounded a curve, something on the opposite side of the road caught our attention. Just a few feet off the roadway, there, in a small clearing, stood, or rather crouched, some kind of creature. My friend, he wasn't driving very fast and slowed as we approached. Our first view was from behind, and then, as we passed, we could see its profile. Immediately, I was struck by its mix of human and canine features. It was crouching close to the ground, but in a bipedal manner. Its legs were bent like those of a canine, with a stifle, joint, and hock rather than human knees. Its front limbs, or arms, were extended forward, and it seemed to be crouched over something, possibly a smaller animal. The arms were unusually long for the body, and its hands looked far more human than paw-like. Its torso was hunched forward, and I got the distinct impression that it could easily drop to all fours if it wanted to. The chest was not broad like a human's, but had a pronounced, forward-angled breastbone, more like a canine. This creature appeared lean, but very powerful, with a very defined musculature. If it had stood fully upright, I truly believe that it would have been nearly 7 feet tall. Its fur was grayish silver and appeared unnaturally shiny, perhaps reflecting our headlights or maybe the moonlight. It had large, erect, wolf-like ears set slightly back on its head. The head itself was unmistakably wolf-like, with a shorter snout than expected, but with prominent canine teeth. The eyes, as best as I can recall, appeared amber in color, though they may have reflected red. It also had a wolf-like tail. As we passed, it turned its head and watched us, clearly aware of our presence. For a few moments, neither of us spoke. Finally, I asked my friend what he thought we had just seen. His exact words were, "We just saw a freaking werewolf." I could only agree, and I asked him to turn the car around, but he flat out refused. For the remainder of the drive, we debated whether it could have been a dog or even a wolf that had escaped captivity, but honestly, it didn't look like either. Now, both of us are experienced outdoorsmen, and neither of us have ever encountered anything remotely like this before. You see, I grew up not far from the area, and I know it well. To this day, I can say with certainty that what we saw defies any normal explanation. My friend and I have both spoken about this incident since, and either of us would have been willing to take a polygraph regarding what we had witnessed. Thank you for your time. Sincerely, Anonymous. Hello, biker. I'd like to share an encounter I had in late July of 2015 in my hometown of Penfield in Clearfield County, Pennsylvania. I was driving home from work on Boy Scout Road. Now, normally I stick to the main roads, but sometimes I take the back roads just to enjoy the scenery. As I came around a bend, I noticed a large, brownish tan creature crouching at the side of the road. I slowed down to get a better look, and that's when it turned its head toward my vehicle. It had a massive head, glowing yellow eyes, and a long nose. I really couldn't believe what I was seeing. It appeared to be eating roadkill, what looked like a hit deer. The very moment it looked at me, I panicked. I slammed my foot on the gas, and I didn't let up until I was safely home. Once I was there, I jumped out of the car, ran inside, locking every door. I then grabbed my rifle from the closet and loaded it. Then went down to the basement where I retrieved a silver letter opener I had inherited from my grandfather. Now, I haven't seen anything like it since, but I want to mention something that happened about a month prior to this sighting. I was at the local mini-mart getting gas when a game commission officer pulled up beside me. He had a trailer hitched to his truck, and inside was a young elk, maybe only 2 or 3 years old. Many of the elk here wear radio collars, and when one dies, the game commission is responsible for investigating the cause of death and collecting the samples. I asked the officer what had happened to the elk. To me, it looked fine except for one thing. Its throat had been torn out. He told me they have no idea what did it. When they found the elk, its collar was lying about 10 feet away. At first, they assumed it had been attacked by a bear, since that's the only animal in the area capable of taking down a bull elk, but there were no signs of the usual bear attack. The officer also mentioned that it was just a cutting motion across the throat, and it was, unnaturally clean for a bear, as they usually eat what they kill. I didn't think too much of that conversation at the time, but after I saw the creature on Boy Scout Road, it all came rushing back. I just want to be clear. I'm a very fact-based person. I don't hold strong beliefs in anything supernatural, but after what I saw that night, I honestly don't know what to think anymore. The reason I'm writing to you is because, I've heard some of your videos about people who've seen similar creatures. Now, I've lived in this town my whole life, and I've spent more time in the woods than anywhere else. I know all the animals around here, and I can tell you, without a single doubt, that this thing was not natural. Thanks. Signed, Michael. Dear Tattooed Biker, about 4 weeks ago, I had my first unexplained encounter. I'm a 42-year-old woman with a sober mind, and I'm not one to embellish stories. You see, every evening I walk my 2 dogs, an 80-pound pit bull and a 5-pound chihuahua, around town. This happened just after dusk, around 8 to 8:30 p.m., when the streetlights had already come on. There's a town park in Portage that borders the woods. It's about 25 acres in size, and after walking the dogs through the park, I decided to go around the block on the back side. A main road runs along the front of the park, while a dirt road runs behind it. and both meet at a streetlight. As I approached that streetlight on the main road, I was about 25 yards away when I see a massive creature standing just back from the light. I estimate it was around 7 feet tall. I could only just make out its legs, which were covered in hair and bent backwards like a dog's. It was too far back to see its face or other features very clearly. With my dogs at my side, especially my protective pit bull, my first thought was, that's a really big dog. But then it dawned on me. I was looking at a werewolf. The figure rocked from side to side as if it were waiting for us to come closer. At that very moment, I yanked both leashes and ran for home. If it had been a dog, especially one that size, it should have chased us, but it didn't. It only stood there, rocking back and forth. Strangely, neither of my dogs reacted. They seemed almost unaware, which really puzzled me. Maybe the creature was downwind, or maybe they simply didn't see it before we fled. When I got home, I told my fiancé what had happened. Now, he didn't mock me. Instead, he believed me and told me not to take the route again. The next night, though, I went back. This time determined just to prove to myself that I had imagined it, or there was something else there that I mistook for the creature. I took the dirt road behind the park. It wasn't quite dusk yet, and the road is bordered by woods on both sides. There are no houses that line that stretch. When I got within about 150 feet of where I had seen the figure, my chihuahua started growling, the hair on his back standing straight up. He barked and spun in circles, clearly trying to pinpoint something nearby. Now, oddly, my pit bull, who was normally fearless and quick to react, showed no response at all. At that exact moment, there was a massive crash in the woods about 10 yards away. The area there was kind of swampy and filled with heavy brush and trees. The noise sounded like a tree falling, loud, fast, and sudden. That's when I bolted. I ran as fast as I possibly could, and I didn't stop until I reached home. The next morning, when I let the dogs outside, both of them instantly began growling, the hair on their backs raised. They ran up and down our fence line, sniffing, digging, and acting agitated, almost scared. It made me wonder if something had maybe followed us home. Since then, I avoid the backside of that park. Even on the front side, the dogs will growl and whine when facing that direction. I always carry a loaded handgun when I walk, but deep down, I know it wouldn't matter if that thing decided it wanted me. Every word of this is true, and I would be very curious to know if other reports have come in from this area. I've lived here for many years, and I've always felt comfortable on those trails until recently. These days, I actually feel safer in the woods than I do in town. I know Penfield has had its share of strange events, and I'm only about an hour's drive from there. If you've heard of anything similar in Portage, I would truly appreciate hearing about it. Thank you for your time and for the work you do. Sincerely, Juliana. Good afternoon, Mr. Biker. My name is Eddie, and I'd like to share a possible unexplained experience with you. Now, this happened in the fall of 2001 in Carthus Township in Clearfield County, Pennsylvania. I would have been 9 years old at the time. We lived down the street from Benton's Market. I can't really recall the street name now, it's been so long, but Our home was just before a bend that led down to the headquarters of a company with big rig trucks parked there. At the time, my father was working on the road for a construction job, so it was just my mom and me at home. She worked at the Permagrain Products factory. Now, this must have been a weekend or a school holiday break because, well, we were both home that day. I remember hearing bobcat screams in the woods behind our house pretty frequently. The local wildlife there was diverse, very different from what I'm used to now living in Pittsburgh. Our neighborhood was wooded, and we had seen 2 bears during our time there. But I'll never forget the night our dog Lucky went completely ballistic, barking at something or someone outside near our front porch. I looked out the window while my mom was asleep, and I initially thought I was seeing someone else's dog, or maybe a coyote. What I saw, though, was unlike anything I'd ever seen before. I didn't catch its eyes, but I saw a massive, easily 6 to 7 foot long canine, and it was only visible for a few seconds, but the image stuck in my mind and still does today. My mom woke up, came to look with me, and she saw it too. We both swear to this day what we saw was real. Its fur looked mangy and very different from other wildlife in the area. We think it might have been attracted to the food that we'd left out for stray cats. It bounded off after a few seconds, staying on all 4s, but it was taller than an NBA player and moved in a way that I'd never seen before. The experience left me visibly shaken and stunned. My mother called my father and told him about it for hours. Neither of us wanted to go back to bed that night, and it became the first time my mom and I stayed up telling stories until 3 a.m. She told my dad that it was unlike anything she had ever seen, and her only friend in town had initially been skeptical until I confirmed what she saw. Now, this encounter has stayed with me into my adulthood. Hearing that there were other sightings like this in the area encouraged me to share my experience with you. Thank you for your time and have a great day. Sincerely, Eddie.
He's got scars on his arms, flames on his chest, rides a steel horse, won't ever rest. Chasing whispers through the foggy pines, searching for truths that slip through time. Moonlight bends where he rolls, the shadows speak. They've got souls, hidden shadows, leather and lore. He's knocking on the other world.